Hello and welcome to Camp Xtras. At the launch of the PlayStation in 1995, we saw some major hits including Rayman and Ridge Racer. Yet in that lineup, Namco would give us a flight simulation arcade port that would lead to one of the most prominent series in the genre. Today we are talking about Air Combat, the start of the Ace Combat franchise. I played it for the first time recently and I'll give you a review along with some history. All footage was captured off of a PS2, and let's go ahead and hop into this one. The story of Air Combat dates back to 1993 when it was first released in arcades. It was published and developed by Namco on arcade hardware meant specifically for 3D polygons. It was a major hit in the arcades and would go on to get high praise from around the industry, including places like IGN. With the upcoming PlayStation console, Namco ordered a port of this game for the home console, along with the PlayStation launch title Ridge Racer. The team chosen to port it to the PlayStation was tiny and didn't have a ton of knowledge of planes. One such developer was Masanori Kato, who said that the experience of Air Combat impacted him in a very positive way, saying that they had to make a game that not just was a port, but fun for all players on the console. The team, unable to transfer the powerful arcade game in all of its glory, was able to be creative and build a new game for the console with the same name. Where the arcade game was based around quick action with a 1-minute time limit to defeat all the enemies, that would be stripped away to go for a longer set of missions you could travel to and unlock as you played. So the PlayStation would receive a larger package from this arcade game, meaning it was its own version. It would retain the same naming scheme here in North America under the name Air Combat, but in Japan it would be named Ace Combat. Ace Combat would release in Japan first on June 30th, 1995, and it would launch alongside the PlayStation in North America on September 9th, 1995. With this awesome early long box packaging. I personally have never played any Ace Combat game before, and I picked this up recently. I do enjoy a good flight game, which is something that I've learned about myself recently. So why not start this iconic franchise with the original? So I played through it, and let me tell you how I felt about it, breaking it down, starting with the plot.
6 months ago, an extremely well-armed and organized terrorist force carried out a coup d'etat. Attempts to free our country have been foiled by repeated surprise attacks.
From what I know about the Ace Combat games, one of the biggest draws is the stories that are built for them. Well, if you go back to Air Combat, you're not given much of anything in terms of plot. It's all explained to you in an opening text scroll, or if you read the manual. You are the cream of the crop in terms of flight mercenaries, and you have been hired to take out a group of terrorists. Terrorism has grown rampant, and you and your selection of aircraft are the last bastion of hope for the country. You get that plot, and then you move from mission to mission. In each mission, you get a briefing, but it's basic, just telling you what planes are present and what you need to destroy to pass the mission. It's obvious that Air Combat is not focused on plot and uses it as a means to set up the action. Something I don't mind, as this does have arcade origins where there weren't cutscenes or anything like that. I'm happy they tried to give everything a wraparound, including an ending here. So for what it does fine. Not bringing the game up or down in my opinion, but it's nice that it's here.
Don't let him get away! Help!
Air Combat is a flight simulation game where you go from mission to mission shooting down planes. Each mission has a specific goal, but generally it's either to shoot down a particular plane or a specific ground unit. The style of the game hardly changes except for perhaps one level where you navigate a canyon. It's action through and through and doesn't give much in variety of things to do. The game takes around 2 hours to complete and it's pretty easy to play, although I'd say it's a blast. Action is simple and it's a good time. It throws you out there and it's all about its dogfights, dodging, and hitting passing jets. You start out with easy controls, but you're going to want to swap that to expert in my opinion. This gives you the full 360 motion to make dogfights more dynamic and easier to manage. You don't get a lot of weapons here, you either get a machine gun or missiles. You lock on and shoot down planes. If you've played flight games before, you know what to expect, and it works well here. Most combatants take 2 missiles to take down, and it leads to a fast-paced experience, a pace that keeps the game brisk and entertaining. There are some issues, and I think that comes from the age of the design. For one, the movement is a bit slow, and using the D-pad to move around feels stiff and never fluid. I was able to manage, but it lacks a certain precision that you would hope for. Also, this game is meant to be played in first person. You can switch to third person, but it's missing a lot of vital information in this mode. Elements like remaining missile count, elevation, and speed are not shown. I'd say sticking to first person is the best way to go about it, and once you get it down, it can lead to a good time. I think it works as well as it does due to its simplicity. Going in the areas, shooting down planes works simply, and that arcade action keeps you coming back. The mission design spices it up a bit where you can earn money, which gets you new jets, and you have different stats for each one, and they do all feel different in the play. You can also hire a wingman who will watch your back or take out enemies on their own, though I never found them to actually do anything useful during my playtime. Yet you earn so much money in the story mode, you might as well hire someone whenever you can. This whole game flies right by and has fun combat, and it ends up feeling like you want more. There's not much more going on in this game other than a 2-player dogfight mode. If you are looking for a game with a ton of content, there's not a lot here. Yet that does feed into the arcade origins and feel of this game. Despite some slow controls, it still manages to feel solid and entertaining throughout the whole game, and this was one I had trouble putting down when I played through it.
Focus on our 6, missile approaching. 9. Jesus, miss! No, Jesus, miss!
Alert, body damage. Alert, body damage.
One issue with this game is its visuals, which do affect the gameplay. Obviously, PlayStation games at the start of its lifespan were not quite cutting edge like the games at the end of its lifespan. Still, even amongst its contemporary launch titles, Air Combat does not impress. Many of the environments are basic and full of pop-in. Many mountains or hills will not pop up until you're really close to them, and the same goes for planes. This can be manageable, but it doesn't look good. The worst part is the ground, which is not well defined in many of the levels. Often it is one shade of color, matching a lot of the background, and sometimes it leads to low elevation crashes due to not being able to tell what is the ground. The lack of draw distances makes so many objectives hidden in hills messy to complete. And one of the last levels that's an obstacle course in a canyon is miserable. Sometimes the game does look nice, especially at night and in the city. It's pulling off some cool stuff, but the polygon work could be so much better. Look at Namco's other launch effort, Ridge Racer, and compare it here, and this feels like a step behind. Even amongst its contemporaries, it leaves a lot to be desired. Though I will say the actual cutscenes are pretty cool. Though those work well due to their music. The music in Air Combat absolutely rocks, and it fits that Top Gun cheesy sound, full of great guitars and energetic music. What a fun mix of tracks here, and they don't repeat. It feels like many of the levels get their own songs, and it never misses. This is exactly what I want music-wise from my Air Combat game. The sound all around is stand out here, with guns and missiles all sounding solid for the time, yet it's the voices that make it stand out. Lines are repeated, but they are fun. Getting missiles hit lead to a bingo or a wahoo. You get told if a bogey is on your tail, and when you miss. These voices are constantly talking, and with this game's lack of good visuals, the sound is quite helpful. It's dynamic and for the time comes through clearly. I think the voices help make this game more memorable in the long run. Air Combat obviously has some issues. The controls are a bit stiff, and visually, it's a mess. Yet it's one of those undeniably entertaining experiences. Going from one mission to another, simply shooting down enemies with a fast arcade-style action works well and is a great time. Mix that with some excellent music and sound design for 1995, and I think you have something special here. It's one of those games, though, that its simplicity does dampen some of its replay factor. Yet there is still some fun to be had here, and you can tell that this formula will be improved with time. Overall, it's a surprisingly fun yet flawed experience. I have now reviewed 6 games on the PlayStation 1, and this one is going to go in at the number 1 slot in my ranking list. I won't say I've played an amazing game on the PS1 yet. This is one of the best here, though, because it has the least amount of flaws out of all of these. difficulties. I felt like it had much more entertainment factor over V-Rally, which overall had driving controls that killed some of the experience. Air Combat came out with either mixed or positive reviews upon release. IGN would give it a 7 out of 10, saying the arcade action was a blast, but the flickering graphics held it back. PlayStation Magazine would give it a 6 out of 10, and overall, I'd say it's a lot of 7s, which seems about right for this game. Despite that though, this game would sell extremely well, selling 2.2 million copies overall, getting it a greatest hits release for the PlayStation, and placing it in the top 40 best-selling PlayStation games of all time. It would also be one of the highest selling entries in the Ace Combat franchise, behind the 4th and 7th entries. This success would lead to the franchise we all know today, as the franchise would swap its name over to Ace Combat with the 2nd entry here in North America, cutting off our lasting impact a bit short, as we will continue that story as we move into the review of that one, which I hope to do eventually. Though Air Combat does live on, I see a lot of people talk about this game and series, and it's an important game for people who were there at the beginning of PlayStation. Looking at Backlog, it seems that many going back to this one do have fun with it, but some do find it a bit too archaic. A lot of reviews compare it to the later Ace Combat games, saying that it has nothing on the later entries. On Backlogged, it holds a 3 out of 5 average with over 1,000 plays, straddling that average line, but I still find that this is an important game in gaming history, as it started up one of the most iconic gaming franchises of all time, and I'm excited to get into it. Be sure to leave in the comments below if you love this game, hated it, and if you've never played it, maybe your favorite Ace Combat game. I'd love to hear from you. Be sure to like, as it really helps me out in the algorithm. Subscribe to keep up with more retro gaming content, and check out my main channel, Camp Xbox, for retro Xbox content. And I'll see you here next time at Camp Xtras.